I'm ready to do something. It's a little bit of flex off. Like if you have a nominated probationary at the same time, like terminated contract, that we do it at the same time.
And so, I don't know exactly she got it, just before she died, somebody used the paperwork for her.
She retired from the district, and you retire from the state. Once you retire, it's just, you send it to retirement paperwork, that goes to the state, and the state starts paying you your TRS. And the district, locally, we pay you for your local days, up to a certain number of your days. So we would pay you off locally. Someone like her that may not have had that local policy where they do that, if she retired, she would retire from the state and get TRS. She probably wasn't, not. She didn't probably lose any benefits with HSD. Like, Alan paid $50 a day for local days. Here, you can make what you're currently making a 5-year average, and depending on how many years you have in the district, you wish you gets paid. So here it's pretty nice. So you don't want to lose it. No. Okay. Retired from the district or retired, because then that means we pay all in the state. And the way we pay you is once we get paperwork from TRS to show that you did to retire. They send it to us.
That's why you have to go to them.
And figure out the retirement date. Yeah. And then come back and tell us how you want to handle that.
I just want to let you know I did get a text
Hey, how you
from
doing?
Jennifer, and she said she'll be about 5 minutes.
You wanna
late.
sit up here?
Is that
Yeah.
okay for you all to
Okay.
wait on
Just
her?
keep the video.
Is that
All
okay?
right.
Okay.
Hi, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, I'm good.
Most districts don't, because it's real difficult to do that, because it costs the district more money to do that, a lot more money, unless you can't find somebody. But you have to prove that you can't find somebody in that spot too, because state doesn't hire retirees. So you have to show that. Then we do hire for part-time temporary to do things like short-term things.
Pete Monica, this is your set of papers, and it's pretty much the same as last time. The only thing I added was the chart that we drew on the board for y'all.
Oh, okay, okay, all right, thank you.
So Elizabeth, did you hear, I said I got a text from Jennifer, and she said she's going to be about 5 minutes late. Okay.
Perfect idea.
not who by name, but
Oh, they already did, actually. There was a room that we had all of our construction leaders.
is it,
And,
okay, the directors and stuff, so they don't person.
Reggie's, for the interviews,
No,
yes.
no.
I think he, I don't know, I think it was on
So, right,
the right. It may
because
have
if it was her, because if she was in trouble, she called, if you organize it, okay, that's it,
been, actually.
because,
They're in the letters.
I'm seeing,
And,
it's the, and then him,
people that you should not know.
okay, that's a whole idea, that's what I've been preaching about.
Yeah, we try to make sure they're in that show.
It's the average one, that's what it's all about. I
Yeah,
felt
and then we break the papers, everybody's at the store, and we
good.
get that information.
This way we know who we're trying to feel. I felt good. I need to tell. That guy is, we're trying to feel. Because they didn't know me. And I knew they were, those two, was key in me.
And so I had him do that, and I did it too, and so he was make switches.
Yes,
And I had Sharon go back and work with him and show him.
Mhm. I think that's gonna work out, but now she's in retirement, she's continuing, so
He's like,
she's gonna continue.
she'll be, these days, I can't run that until the end of the year, because we don't like to hold people on campuses, and it's like, it may be an in-district person, when they get them into a playing field, so if it's an in-district, Mr. Chambers doesn't want us to pull, because that's for kids, to keep them on campus. And so, we thought we'd wait on that and then post it.
Well, I tell you what, as long as this is, I don't know.
Because it's, maybe it was a full principal, or we never gonna get the job, we were not gonna turn the job. And it's perfect time, as other districts usually post them over, and either gets in and retire that year, so we get people will be jobs. So that's why I actually, I'm working part-time temporary on projects, trying to get some.
Please accept my apologies, I'm so sorry. I know you're busy, busy day. I think we have two, Veronica and someone else just went out.
She's in just here.
Okay, all right, so do we need to wait on that? Yeah.
I don't know, maybe 1,000 parents give their
Oh,
children.
yes. Yes, yes, yes.
She wouldn't have.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to call our meeting to order, and it is 4:98.
And no one in the room when I came in, and I am terribly sorry that I was late.
Okay, so, first of all, thank you for coming to this meeting that we had requested. The committee, we are the policy committee, and one of the policies that was brought to our committee for our consideration was policy DFBB local. And so it was brought to our committee by Dr. Powell. And so she gave us quite a bit of information and the reasoning of looking to make the change. But one thing that the committee wanted to do is that we wanted to hear from representatives, because we didn't want to just make this decision on our own. And so we wanted to hear from representatives from the committee to just hear what they had to say. But so she did, we asked that she pull a committee together, which she did, and she has a committee to look at it. And and came back with their recommendations. Once we received those recommendations, one of the things that we also wanted to, or that we noticed, or we wanted to make sure is that we heard from the leadership of the different teacher associations. And so that's why we asked to bring you all here so that we can hear from you directly. Because we feel that the leadership speaks for the organization. I know representatives are, it's great, you know, they come and they can bring back the information to you, but we wanted to hear any feedback or questions or discussions that you would like to have with our committee. So that was the reason for this meeting, okay? Can we go ahead and start out just for purposes of notes, everyone introduce themselves and which women's teacher organization that you represent.
Veronica Thibodeau, Alief, American Federation of Teachers and School Employees.
Rhonda Whiting, Alief TSTA.
Arthur Robinson, TSC.
Christina Stark, Association of Texas Professional Educators.
Okay. All right. So Elizabeth, if you can just give our committee an update. I know that you've already.
Okay, so what I've given you to review is the policy itself, the FPP. And I really want you to pay attention to page 3 of 7, because that's the part that we're referring to. So the question in hand is, currently our local policy is different from the legal policy. Legal policy in regards to non-renewal or termination provide the notice to the employee. On page 3 of 7, it says 45 days. Legal policy says 10 days. And so our recommendation was for us to be along with legal, which would be 10 days. So one of the things the committee asked me to do was to check surrounding districts just to see what other districts are doing. So I provided that piece of information to you as well. And then the next page is actual committee members that attended the meetings with us. We had representatives from each of the organizations, as well as Teachers of the Year, as well as other people on the committee. And then the feedback that we received from them. And then last but not least, last time when we met with y'all, I met with 2 of y'all last week, we created a diagram of how, whenever we have to make the non-renewal, how much time in advance we have to do that. So I created the actual diagram so you can see what it looks like in the diagram format. So the reason why we looked at changing policy 45 days in advance to 10 days, we felt like with the new T-test and along with the way that the state has changed in evaluations, we didn't believe it was fair to not continuing providing opportunities for the teachers to grow and reflect that on their evaluations before a decision had to be made to the board regarding employment. And the reason why that's so important, if you look at the last page, basically, currently we are looking at non-renewal as, if you look at the top, we start looking at the observations. Currently, 45-minute T-test has to occur by December. And then non-renewal recommendations are notified to us by January. We have them present a non-renewal binder, which shows all the documentation of why the person's being non-renewed. And then at the March board meeting, we have to provide the board with the recommendations of people that were going to be non-renewed. That really gives the teacher 2 less months than what's really needed. Our recommendation was to allow the teacher to have from October to December learning and growing and learning, and then the 45-minute T-test to occur in January, February, which would make the non-renewal recommendation come to us in March rather than in January, which would give the teacher 2 more months rather than, the lack of time. And then obviously we would have to take the non-renewal to the board by May. In our belief, what we've seen in the past, we believe that it's best for students to be able to allow the teacher that full-time, because sometimes what we see is that a teacher's been told that they're going to be non-renewed, they tend to shut down out of natural behavior, human behavior. They don't try as hard as they would normally do, because many times they feel like, what's the point? I'm not going to be non-renewed. So we felt like it was important that we don't want the teachers to shut down, not come to work. We want them to continue to work because it's best for kids if they have their teacher. And we believe that it's our job to continue to teach them and grow them and help them, support them in the classroom, and then give them more time to grow. And then April and May, that's when that would have to happen. So that's what our recommendation was. When the committee met, we explained what this whole process to them, and we saw the feedback. And the feedback from the teacher groups and from the group that I had that day, every one of them said that they were in agreement to go to 10 days, and they provided their verbiage and verbatims are on that page to tell you why they felt that way. So that's kind of how the process went. Again, as I talked to teachers and principals, in fact, I talked to a little teacher the other day, and she said, I wish I had more time before you had to give a recommendation. I wish I had a couple more months. And at this time, I can't give them that, because if I did, then I couldn't follow our process. And so I truly believe what's best for kids and what's best for teachers is for us to move the date back.
Thank you. So I would like to start with Mr. Arthur Robinson on any feedback or suggestions. We received several emails from individuals, I know I did, that was concerned about the change, and they said that they agree with you. So I would like to hear from you directly what your particular concerns are.
Well, I understand that the district is trying to find a way to alleviate or put a problem that may exist for staffing. But my understanding is that the district should also keep the staff person, employee in mind when you're looking at their job worthy also. For instance, there's so many different scenarios I can give you. If a person is looking to change and get out of the situation that, so say, Alief is just not working for them as far as the stress of this district, opportunities, that's just another situation also of opportunities, and they're wanting to get out. Well, if they were to take this option, my understanding is that most districts are still in. We're in the innovation of yes, and we're going to get out in May. Okay, that's what this apparently is focused on. When we get out in May, those districts are still in. A lot of districts are still in operation. Jobs are not even listed yet, and they don't list them until school is out in those districts. And that may be in June, most likely. The districts are in June. When that happens, the school is already out for us. Okay, and I'm wanting to get another job, get out of here, get another opportunity. Those 10 days elapsed, the period elapsed, it's over with. Now the job's advertised, we have to actually get selected, go interview for those jobs, be selected, go through the whole process, but now that timeline's already canceled us out. That was one of my concerns. The other concern, what if a spouse gets a better job somewhere, and the other spouse is a teacher, staff person for the district, they weren't thinking of moving. This job came up, they have to move their family, so the family's not separated. Now that leaves that spouse that's a staff person here, like a teacher, in limbo. Another reason is why this tend to make a teacher, rush to a judgment, rush to a decision that they're not really ready to make. If this thing were to go into place. Those are some of the issues that I've had with it. And I do understand, we're trying to improve, but what's, it's like a bare aspirin. It was great when it was invented, but it also can cause ulcers. And that's what I'm looking at here. And this can go on and on, but I'm just trying to give it to you in a nutshell. Now, I too did call not a bunch of districts, But I did call Cy-Fair, okay, Katie. I called Spring Branch, and I'm seeing 10. This must be, that's for the legal aspect,
So
right?
I think maybe, I just want clarification, are you referring to last day to resign rather than the recommendation for non-renewal? Because both of them are 45 days. So I think you're referring to, like, when is the last day a teacher is able to resign? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, this one is the non-renewal. When we tell a teacher that you're not performing the way we expect you to perform in Alief, that we're recommending termination. So those are two different rules. I think you got them confused because they're both 45 days.
Okay.
So the other one's not in question right now.
Okay, so, and I think that may be a little confusion.
I think that was.
See? So, but the bottom line is this is what I'm gonna say. Then right now, my understanding, we have till about mid-July, okay, to resign and take another job. That's gonna solve my issue right there. That's the bottom, is it?
So that's not what we're talking about today. That rule still is in place.
Okay.
So that's something very different than this, but
So they will still have the 45
they
days?
still have the 45 days, and we'll announce that day. And just for clarification for the board members, we do take extenuating circumstances that they may to another state or they need to get suitable replacement. We do take each one and look at them individually. The rule is 45 days before the first day of instruction. However, things happen and we realize they happen and it's out of their control, that we do take specific situations under consideration for that.
But
But
the-
this is not this.
Okay, but the non-renewal, you usually used to be in March, is that correct?
That's where we
Okay.
go now.
And so, but you want it to be in,
We want to push it back later, so it's giving the teacher more opportunity.
when you say they push it towards
Yeah,
May or
to
back
April and
towards?
May, like if you look at
Okay.
this chart.
So, okay, so you want that contract, you want that decision to be made
Later,
in May?
April, and May by the time the board tells them, but the teacher will know in March rather than January.
So with the new, with current, where we are currently, teachers are informed in January that your contract is not going to be renewed, meaning you're not coming back this year. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but if I'm told, you know, I'm not coming back, I don't know how my behavior might change. I don't know, you know, that's just, you know, I might work hard or I might say, well, gosh, I need to find something and this, that, and the other. What the new proposal is to now give those teachers more time to grow and before they are given a non-renewal notice that, you know, they could desperately improve if they are given more time. So that's what Dr. Powell is saying, that let's not tell them or give them such a short window of time. Let's give them a couple of extra months. So am I correct? And that's what you're saying?
So banging it up,
Till May, till April.
Well, no,
pushing it to,
Maybe at the end of the year. And
Yeah.
you mentioned, which I thought was a good point, the job fairs. Most district job fairs are, like ours is like April or May. So they would already know and be able to go to the job fairs in other districts.
My concern with this is that what we have in place now is looked at as an incentive to a lot of teachers. That's why they come here, for the additional incentives that Alief offers. If this is taken out, we're already bleeding teachers because we have some principals who 10 days, 45 days, doesn't matter. We have some campuses that are bleeding really good teachers. We're going to have a mass exodus because teachers are not looking at, well, this gives me more time to improve. Teachers are looking at, my principal doesn't care, and there's no plan in place for me to improve. A lot of times principals have already made a decision. So, as I said, they don't care if it's 10 days, 45 days, and I know I'm looking at that extreme principle, but we do have some of those. This is not really giving someone enough time to look for another job. And if we're talking about giving teachers more time to improve, what do you have? If you're telling me that I'm not going to be renewed, but you have 45 days to improve, then what are you going to do to help me? Because at this point, I'm frightened, I'm thinking about my future, I'm thinking I'm not going to be able to pay my rent, I'm gonna lose my car, I'm gonna lose my health insurance. So what services does the district have in place to help me grow from this point to this point? And what services did you have in place already so that I didn't get where I am? And if I'm having issues with my principal, where can I go without being fearful of any kind of retribution to talk to somebody and say, hey, this is what's going on. My principal has told me you're deficient in this area, in this area, in this area. I don't feel comfortable talking with her, but I do want to keep my job. I do want to take some classes. I do want to do what I need to do. Now, is there some sort of RTI for teachers that I can go on so that I can show some improvement, and then we can go in and say, she's done this and this and this. Now, if there's a personal issue, can we work with this? What do we have in place? Are we just going to leave that to the teacher dangling?
So we do have our instructional specialist, like task specialist. So if the issue may be classroom management, we do assign a task specialist which works in the district to go and support the teacher for the classroom management. If it's an instructional issue, then we get with our reading and math specialist. So they also have people on campus that support them. So it's not just the principal, but it's the principal, AP, and their leadership team, which would be the reading specialist, math specialist, science specialist. So if they're struggling, they're required to show me what have they done, because when we turn in the documentation, I need to see how have we helped this teacher, what trainings have they had, how many times did we visit her, did she get an opportunity to visit another classroom, did you videotape her to show her where she can improve. So that's required before they can submit it to us. Those kinds of efforts made by the campus to help the teacher improve.
Is this a prescribed plan that you have in your binder?
Yes, and before they can even send it in, I tell them, they have to write a letter saying, I've done this, so it's very prescriptive of what, to show that they've had PD, they've had opportunities to grow.
I'd like to see that if I could. But I do have a question. Why is there such a push to do this at this time of year? Why not at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year for next year?
Well, it wouldn't happen this year. This is for next year. But I wanted to bring it up early enough so that you guys are aware, or everyone's aware, that this is a practice that we're looking at. We didn't want to do it next year. This won't apply for this school year. It won't happen until, like, this year we're still in the old track.
Well, I don't comment on that also, what you were saying. I do have the same question as Rhonda on the T-test because this tool just started this last year, okay? And a lot of administrators, although they are being trained, I'm not gonna say they've been trained, they too still have administrators that are not 100% fully trained in this thing. They've been to the training. They too have problems with this also. The teachers are still learning this tool. It's brand new. It's brand new. This is what's going to could lead to some of those non-renewals. Teachers in need, the domains not being reached. And I just don't see, I think it's short the time, like Rhonda was saying. Now, Dr. Powell did say we're looking at next year. So 2 years, they're going to notice, like PADOS, for example. I know PADOS. That goes forwards. I know that study of it, train everything. Teach tests on sit and take. I don't know what all these we know, but teach tests all on getting through them, getting through the domains and stuff. So with that said and done, if this is something you want to bring in, I think, like maybe this may be something we need to look at possibly 3 to 5 years down.
Go ahead now.
It's just got to we got to bring this in because again, we're only in our second year, and actually, a year and 1 semester, and all the administrators don't know this system 100% yet. They don't, and a lot of the teachers are still struggling with it. I mean, the teacher unions are helping their members with this, and we have ours. People come from all sorts to kind of come down and talk to teachers about the T-test. And of course, like I said, we've had committees. I think Dr. Powell did a wonderful job getting last year, I think it was, because I appointed 2 teachers to be on that T-test committee. And I had that notebook, and it's a whammy. I don't know if you've ever looked at that T-test. It's something. That's quite a bit to want to go a year and a half now and let that be part of your non-renewal. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be the biggest part of it. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not totally against it altogether, but when it comes to the the time of when you want to incorporate this, that's where I'm having a little issue.
But from my understanding though, we're going to give teachers 2 more months to grow, so therefore implementing it for next year will give those new teachers, or the teachers who have maybe struggled this year some, but are not on the non-renewal time. What is the probationary? 3 years, right? So you still have those new year people that are 3 years, and they have that extended time now. Otherwise, they would have less time next year to
That's not
implement.
guaranteed, depending on the principal. There was something else that I was thinking about. I probably will try to work until they bring me an oxygen tank. I promised my grandson that I would stay around for him. He's in 9th grade now, and he's autistic. And he said he wants to be in my class. And I said, well, I don't know about that because I will make you work. But, and I will use the term at my age because I've gotten comfortable with it. Let's say someone came in and whispered in my principal's ear, and I've got a really good principal, but somebody started whispering in her ear, you know, we need to reduce staff. You know, you've got some teachers here who are making a little bit of money. You know, you've got some teachers here who are a little bit older, and we need to bring some young ideas in. I know the whispers, there are ways to whisper in people's ears. I have always felt like I was supported in the classroom. I've got a couple of challenging classes, and when I say challenging, they had me drinking orange soda. I've got one right now. That's when you know it's not been a good day. Looking at some of this, my principal could come in and say, well, you can't handle this class. So we need to start thinking about either doing something else, retiring, or she could come in and say, well, we've decided we're not going to renew your contract because you can no longer handle these classes. You've got this one class that is just totally out of control. And that could be done. And she gives me 10 days, and I'm not in a position, I'm not financially ready or emotionally ready to retire or to quit. And I only have 10 days to try to find a job at my age. And this is one of the reasons that I stayed here, because I felt like I'm going to be supportive, there are going to be things in place to help me if I need help. But now you have to tell me I have 10 days to get out?
So, I hear what you're saying. So you said that there is a process that's documented that they have to go through. In that process, is a teacher made aware, I do apologize. Is the teacher made aware
Yes, just as.
prior to those 10 days, or is it just a shock?
Absolutely. In fact, what we do is I look back from the beginning of work. Say, for instance, a probationary teacher, they've been there for years. I look at their T-test from year 1, their walkthroughs through year 1, year 2, and then the 3rd year, I look for the documentation of the walkthroughs. Have they been non-compliant? Did the principal address it? So we do take the history as far back as I feel like it's needed. And if we see the same concerns year over year, how have they helped or year one they do this? And I actually have a chart where I say, okay, they did this, this, and this, who follows through. And I write down the administrator that didn't follow it. So to me, yes, we do require that to be turned in. And I have access to all the T-tests and all the walkthroughs for the district, so I do review them myself. And I do see the comments, teachers sign off on that, and the walkthroughs as well.
So a teacher is aware way before they get a non-renewal. They're on some type
They're
of...
aware that they're not performing at their level. They have to go back and do the new goal.
Why is this just for teachers? We got 6 schools on our water administration and superintendent. Yeah, water superintendent contract thing broke down to 10
And when we
days.
revise their goal, we're telling them you're not being successful, so we have to be more support. If it doesn't get better, it can lead to that. We don't want to tell them automatically. because we're trying to-
Her contract need to go down to 10 days too.
So the teachers are part of that plan. It's not that the plan is given to them. They actually have input.
They have to help make the plan, yes.
And then they get the actual non-renewal. Now they get the non-renewal recommendation in January, so the teacher would know.
Verbally, they're told, and they have to have a meeting with them, and they have to tell me that they had a meeting.
And then the proposed would be March,
That's when it goes to the board.
and then they would carry through to the end of the
They
school
will
year.
continue to work and get paid all the way till the end of their contract.
Yeah,
I'm wondering,
Yeah, I'd like to speak to this issue. I know I'm sitting back here on the second row, and
Pull a chair.
that's a bit,
absolutely, pull a
that's a
chair
bit
up.
out of the eye range, but, first of all, Alief AFT does not agree with the changing of this policy at this point in time. Our position is that the district holds enough reasons for cause to release a teacher. And in keeping with the district's vision,
Mission
it
statement.
seems to me that we're putting the cart before the horse. We're sitting here today talking about how we're going to fire teachers instead of how we're going to grow teachers. I think a growth model, a strong growth model, should be established prior to this conversation. So right now, if we were to look at our district and how we're growing our teachers, I don't see a purposeful, established path of growth. And that must happen first. Then we can talk about how we're going to release teachers. So I just want you to know that Alief AFT has always been at the table for that. How we're moving in that direction, well, that depends on how fast the district wants this collaboration to happen. But moving back to local DFBB, first of all, we see the policy as it stands to be very weighted. 45 days prior to the last day of instruction to be released or to be told that you will not be renewed, and 45 days to the first day of instruction to inform the district that you will not be coming back for employment. Now, how both of those happen right now is pretty egregious on the district's part, and I say that because I've already dealt with cases under T-test. And T-test is the best evaluation model the state has put forth yet because it is a growth model. However, administrators in the district use this model punitively.
Come on now.
They are still under the mindset of PDOS. There is no punitive part to this model. It is all about the growth of the teacher, which the teacher drives and administration assists. Until we can see clear pathways of that happening, we are definitely putting the cart before the horse. Again, even in the first reason to let go of an employee.
Educated.
I just want to intervene. Dr. Trump is calling, she wanted to be a part of this.
Okay.
No, I just want to let you all know that.
She's on? Okay,
Yes, that she's
okay.
on the phone.
Awesome.
Hold on one second. Dr. Trump, I'm going to put you on mute. I know you're coughing, but I wanted you to hear. Okay.
Okay, even the first reason to let go of an employee, deficiencies pointed out in observation reports, appraisals, or evaluations, supplemental memorandums, and other communications. I feel like and that's just number one. You have, what, over 34 of these. Many of them we find to be very vague and subjective. However, it is policy of the district, and we could talk about changing a lot of that at a later date. But when it comes to teachers being told 10 days prior to the last day of instruction that they will no longer be employed with the district, I'm having trouble with this timeline, because this timeline is saying that teachers will not have their 45-minute T-test observation until January. First of all, let me say, teachers in Alief, teachers anywhere certified in the state of Texas are considered professionals. Day one, you hit the ground teaching. Day one is what, August This year it was,
17.
thank you, day one, you go in that classroom ready to teach. Not January when you're about to have your 45-minute T-test observation. I find that to be a problem, and I find that to be the wrong communication to send to our professionals. How are we supporting them from day one? How are we preparing them prior to day one? Then, it moves on to say, well, we can help them grow better. They get two more months of an opportunity to grow, which doesn't change their situation. It really doesn't change their situation. They have been proposed for non-renewal, and that's that. So, saying that I may shut down in January, I think is a very, very poor assessment of our professionals, because we have professionals who have developed relationships with their students from day one. And I could hardly believe that they were shut down on their students because they've been notified they will not be coming back next year. And if that is the case, if those are the type of professionals we have in our classroom, then we've got a real big problem. And that problem is not happening on their end. It's happening on the end of the person who's harming them. So maybe that process needs to be reviewed. But nevertheless, if I have not grown, if I have not shown growth from day one, how am I going to show growth in 2 months? I feel like that is a very, very poor way of saying that's how we support our teachers. I also know and have experience and have cases of this experience where administrators are using personnel that is supposed to be there to support the teacher as supervisory personnel. I just left the table with a teacher at Landis Elementary who was told you need to change this, and this. Okay, granted, there was no leeway in there for that teacher to use her own discretionary decision on responding to the needs of her students. However, the teacher was like, okay, whatever you want me to do. Well, you didn't change it. You're insubordinate. Well, I did change it, but it's not looking the way you want it to look. How can I get some support? Can someone come in and model for me what you want to see? That never happened. I just want to tell you that my time can be better spent than coming to the table to say, why wasn't this model for this teacher? When we come to the table, we want to come to the table in a collaborative voice to say, let's review the process. Let's look at what's going on here, and then we can tell you the tools, the support that we can bring to help support teachers. And now together we're developing a growth model that will support our professionals, that will help them be successful. I find a lot wrong with changing this policy right now. I would not like to think that our board would be that egregious toward teachers to say, we're going to go ahead and change it and you all figure out how to work around it. Then to say, let us revisit this in 3 to 5 years after we've seen the process by which we're going to be growing our teachers. Then you'll have all of us at the table agreeing, yeah, we may need to exit you. Because not only have the union brought resources, the district has brought resources. And those resources carefully guides that professional. And if they don't show the growth that we expect, then we're both in agreement it's time for them to exit. But this way, changing this policy right now, it will heavily weigh upon the district's decision to exit a professional, only by which it will cause us to respond in defense of that professional, thereby making our relationship look egregious and very confrontational. And that's just way too much energy to be wasting doing that. We should be in collaboration for how our teachers are servicing and teaching the children of Alief and the Alief community. And I may have a thought later, but so far that's where we are.
She said.
So much
And
power given
to
to
also
the
piggyback
legislators.
on what Mr. Tudor was saying, this instrument, and I'm sure Ms. Powell will agree with me because we've had many conversations concerning this instrument is not being used like she said. This instrument is simply a coaching implement. When it first came out, that's how they described it.
Are you talking about the policy?
The top, no,
or the-
We're
T-test,
talking about
T-test.
T-test,
And my
yeah.
problem is that T-test is going to be the main barometer for these non-contracts, okay? Because that's all they really have. It's used for evaluations and different things, those domains. So therefore, it's a coaching tool. That's when it first came out. That's the way it was described. That's the way it's brought out. The administrator and that teacher, and again, like Ms. Powell said, they know when when they're struggling. They know they've been told what the improvement needs and all that. It's because the T-test calls for that principal, the evaluator, and that teacher to be together all through this whole process. So let's go back to what Ms. Thibodeau said. If that's happening, then sure, then you can see this coming into play then, the non-renewal. It is not happening a lot, because I too get some of that, and one of my first questions is, how many times did your evaluator sit down and talk with you about ways to improve this? I said, well, wait a minute, y'all, this district is T-test, and it calls for coaching. The evaluator is supposed to sit through each one of those segments for everything, pre-observation, the walkthroughs, everything. It outlines it. That's why I was saying it's too early, because that instrument is going to be used for people going to be issued non-renewal, and guess what? What led to it? Those people that's doing evaluation don't fully understand this thing 100% to begin with.
Well, they don't care about it to begin with anyway. They was going to try and.
Absolutely.
The non-renewal process is the same process that we use for like the paraprofessional have the same reasons for termination, the principals have the same reasons, so the reasons are the same for all employees. So I just wanted to clarify that,
Yes, ma'am.
because you mentioned earlier about just being teachers. No, we use those same reasons for any employee, to include an administrator, to a para, but the reasons on that list we use throughout the district, all groups.
And if you get that T-test notebook and read it, you're going to see coach all the way through. And it's going to tell you who coach is. Now, one thing which I'm going to applaud Ms. Powell on, I'm going to use this example. I don't think she can deny this example. I had a member right across the street, AMS, was struggling, a young lady, and they put her on a Tina, okay? It was not happening. She was not getting that support Ms. Thibodeau was talking about, okay? Therefore, I went to her, with her and Stacy Gibson, got together with this lady, with me in that office. They put together something to help this teacher, and she got off that team. You know that.
And that we're saying it's convenient.
Okay.
Because you did what the T-test is asking you to be done now, is what we're saying. You did it, it wasn't your job, but you did it, and you were successful with it. So,
Can you clarify that Tina, was that this year?
this was
No,
last
it
year.
was a couple of years ago.
Oh, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ms. Powell, you stated that all the administrators are getting graded by the same policy. Is that correct?
Actually, this meeting is for the teacher organizations.
Oh, okay,
And
well,
you're perfectly where, I'm glad you're here, but
All right.
you're not part of the conversation.
oh, okay. So, are they?
Question was what?
Are all staff being held to the same recommendations?
So, the chapter 21, which are principals,
Right.
APs,
Right.
any of those type of people do have to follow this procedure. The non-chapter 21, like paraprofessionals, and they are at will, but we use the same reasons. So the reasons are consistent throughout the district, but only our people that are chapter 21 do we have to give that notice.
Okay.
A person that's not chapter 21 is somebody that's not required to have SBEC certification, maybe like our director of transportation. He would be a non-chapter 21.
So FBB would be a change in all term contracts?
And chapter 21 contract, so we would apply to our principals, our APs, our teachers, myself, instruction, anybody that their job requires SBEC certification.
Okay.
So what percentage of teachers are non-renewed? Do you have that?
So we have approximately 3,500 teachers, and this year I have 7 people that we're looking at going through the process, and I think next week we'll probably have 1 or 2 at the most.
Why is that? So you said, okay, so out of 3,500 teachers, 7 are going through the non-renewal process, and you said after next week or so.
Because they're choosing they want to go ahead and resign because they don't want to be terminated, because they know that they're not making the growth, and so they want to leave on good faith and then go to another district.
So that would be some skewed data. Because I already have 15 teachers who are telling me they're not coming back because their principals informed them that they were going to be put up for non-renewal, or they can resign. So that doesn't mean that those numbers are not there. It just means that teachers, professionals are choosing to resign.
I'm getting that too.
So I know that.
So your numbers will look a certain way, but those are not true numbers. Because if these people would say, you know what, I'm going to fight for my position as a professional, then you would have a good number of teachers saying, you know, I'm going to fight for this because I believe this is the right thing for me to do. And, you know, again, as Arthur was saying, establishing a purposeful growth process is not just good for professionals, it's also good for the administrators. They have to learn how to use this growth model. They have to learn how to be fully present in their role and productive in their role. Because, you know, some people, you know, it's hard to sit down with a teacher, even though they only choose 2 things that they're going to work on. I got a call today. A teacher's told you have 5 deficiencies and 2 unacceptable. Okay, that doesn't even sound right under this model, under this evaluation model, because she's only working on 2 things. Now, they can add a 3rd, but it's not recommended that they do more than 3. How do I know all this? Because I'm a certified appraiser. Everyone on my staff is, as well as our state staff. So we know what's really going on with T-tests. And we have put together a training for assistant principals and for our members, so that they understand the right way that they're supposed to be functioning under T-tests.
Would you give our committee like an overview of T-tests at a later?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay,
And
thank
just so
you.
you know, our principals are required to be certified, which makes them have to take a test to become certified.
I want to make sure I'm clear on something. You were talking about Chapter 21 employees, so that would include all teachers?
Anybody that their job requires them to have an SBEC certification.
Okay. So that means that would include administrators.
Yeah.
And so they would be, would they be under the change,
Yeah.
the proposed change?
Yes, they would.
So principals?
And all chapter, yes, all of them will be included in this change.
Okay. Huh. Well, I'm going to ask this question because I don't know, and it may not be relevant, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So is Mr. Chambers required to have a certification?
Yes.
So would he be under this also?
They are evaluated by the board.
Okay.
It's included in the terms of his contract. So however his contract is written and agreed upon is how that will occur.
So, but,
Just
okay,
curious.
one more time, I want to make sure I'm hearing your answer to Ron. Administrators in this district are going to be held to that same.
Yes, our assistant principals are principals that are called Chapter 21 contracts. Anybody in instruction, somebody that's not a Chapter 21 might be like a director of maintenance or a director of transportation, because they don't require SBEC certification.
Or nurses, you know, they're
Nurses have
professionals,
licenses.
but they're not Chapter 21 because they're not SBEC certified. They're certified by the state, but not by the State Board of Education.
All I can say is, if they're going to be included, I hope it's not like the evaluation, when that evaluation came out for principals. I would ask my board member to look that over and give my thoughts on that. And my thoughts are simply, I haven't heard of anything since that, you saw that in this book here. The evaluation of principals in there. And the person that's going to evaluate the assistant principals is the head principal. So, and I'm just being honest with you, I haven't heard anything since then. That's been about 4 or 5 years now. So,
They're required to be evaluated every year.
I'm sure they will.
I think so. I don't think.
No, I'm sure they are. No, I'm just saying, I haven't heard, I don't know.
I think there are still too many questions, and we talked before about perceptions. At this point, the position of ADT-STA is a position of non-support. I don't see the benefit that this will have for teachers. I think that it needs to be really examined if it's possible, even possible to have any guarantees that if this change is made, this is what the process is going to be, this is what's going to happen. We're going to protect you to the end if we can, and then if we all decide that you've got to go, then you've got to go. A doctor is not going to set a broken limb and then tell his patient to be happy. The doctor is going to support his patient until he's ready to tell him, go back to work. And that's how we have to look at it.
Okay, for ATPE, we talked about it and looked at this a little bit, and we agree that it is good because we kind of look at it in the viewpoint of even like the state test. What have they done for the state test that we have to give children? They've moved it back. Why? So that we can give kids a longer time to get to where they need to be. It's the same thing with the teachers. You have a teacher, they're evaluated with the t-test, and instead of January being told you're not going to have a job and then going to the thing, now they have time to grow. Principals aren't feeling rushed to hurry up and make a decision by January. And it's not that they're going to grow from December to February. They're not going to grow, but they have that whole 5 months instead of 3 months.
Well, they have
So
whole 3 years.
it's not, okay, we're going to give you 2 more months, but they do have an extended time, and you can work with them a little more from the beginning. So we see it as a good thing because they have an extended time.
And let's not forget the probationary period.
Yeah.
There is a period with all of these employees that we can't really help them with as unions. We can't really help them with that probationary period, but I believe in that period of time we can help in the way we collaborate with the district in supporting them.
Can you clarify that for me so that I understand what you're saying? You said during the probationary period that you guys can't assist them?
The probationary period of the employee is they're still somewhat at will.
Gotcha.
So the district can say, the district doesn't even have to give cause. You know, we're just not going to have you back next year.
Okay.
So I think in the case, and just in case there's a hiccup of an anomaly that's just so out of the ballpark that it's evident this teacher's got to go, you still have that window. You still have that time in which the district is not going to have to worry about a lot of pull from us. And I think that's from 1 to 3 years for new teachers and 1 year for a transferring teacher. So even a teacher with experience that may not be up to the standard of Alief would still have a year to get it together, number one. But again, number two, we're under a growth model for evaluation. And that speaks volumes on the things that we can do in this district to be able to say to parents, you want to educate your children with us because we take care of our professionals. We have a purposeful pathway of growth for them that no matter what your child's deficits are, when they land in one of our classrooms, they will be successful. I know I sound like
It sounds like like it would be
Yeah.
fantastic for recruiting,
Oh,
for
well,
recruiting purposes, if we were able to do that.
but I mean, we believe in our district and we believe in our professionals. And we know that this can happen. We're finally getting the stage in which we've been working so hard for, a stage that's conducive to collaboration. And I don't know how much Ms. Key, Ms. Bro, you know about AFT, but we have some pretty deep pockets. And we invest in professional development for our members. So we would be able to bring many resources that could support a struggling teacher, a teacher that needs to change, a teacher that is suffering from deficits and wants to do better, desire to do better, a new teacher. We bring all these things to support our teachers from the beginning, from the onset of their profession, and from the first day of instruction, and prior to the first day of instruction. So, and I invite you all to look at some of our professional developments that we have been able to partner with the district on, and go in and sit down and just see what we're teaching. All of our PD is top 3 tier research base. So we don't look at short term. We look at the long-term research, and we take best practices from that. And all of our comments and evaluations come back from teachers. This is what I needed last year. This is what I can use. This really works. So, you know, we have the tools. It's just up to us in knowing how to put those tools in place. And I am confident that our board will make the right decision. I'm very confident of that. And again, my hope is to sit at the table in a collaborative spirit, not in a contentious spirit. And before I close, there's one more reason why we don't support the changing of this policy at this time. It's because we can see it being used in an egregious manner to push out all of our experienced teachers. Most of Alief's teachers have met and surpassed the midpoint of salary. Let me just be blunt. Of salary. We do not want to see these teachers being pushed out because this policy is being used in an egregious way. Now, we know the spirit in which it's being presented right now, but we also know that that could change. We really need this. We really need for that horse to be set before the court. So we really need that pathway in place first, so that no one can stand up and say, you were not really coached and guided and grown the right way. Everyone at the table can say, yeah, everything was done for you. This just may not be the place for you.
And I know, again, one more time, we didn't hear him say it again. I applaud you for trying to do it. I'm the first one that stood and said, this is what HR should be doing. I said that over a year ago. But I do think, with all due respect, because you've been very fair with it too. But it is too, I think it's true. I'm not an expert, you are in this. I think it's true. You should come in this year and ask for the next year. But I think it's true. But at least until we get under this key test one.
I think maybe this is an opportunity for us to step back and look and say, how can we use the resources of the locals in the district, as Veronica was saying? If we can all get together and work on that and have some, maybe add to the support that's already there and really work together. We already have people who are coming to the district because there's so many benefits here.
that would be just one more thing that would draw in new teachers and get new teachers to stay, because they know they're coming to a district that does provide this support, that will be there for them to make sure that they are successful. Because the bottom line is, the most important person, and that person is not here, that's our children. So we've got to think about what we're doing to grow the teachers so that the teachers can take care of our kids.
Does anyone else have, Jennifer?
No, I'm good. Thank you for all your comments. I will type them up for Darlene so that we can use those in our deliberations. I had not received the emails that teachers had been sending, but you had been sending me some emails asking questions. And, you know, the only way we can do it right is for everybody to have a voice in the conversation.
And thank you, Jennifer, and thank you all for coming. And we wanted you all to know and understand that we did want to hear your voice, which is why we requested the meeting. We also want to let you all know that the policy was brought to the committee because we now have a policy committee that looks at any policies that have not been updated. And so that's why it came to our committee. Now the committee will, after this, decide it's not on any board agenda at this time. It was brought to the committee for discussion. And so that's where we are right now, and I want to assure you all that we hear and we truly do want to hear what you have to say. And I would hope that you trust that this committee and the board have the same concerns and that all of you all have, and that we're putting our children first, what is best for our students. And so I just wanted to leave you all with that, and I appreciate you all coming out in the rain and coming back and forth for a couple of different meetings. And just rest assured, if you have any questions, concerns after this, you all know how to reach us, right?
And we appreciate you letting us make the dinner hour.
Thank you. We will dismiss at 5:36.
Somebody needs somebody to write me a green pass for night school.
It's good to see you again, Dr. Lawrence. You know what? We're good communicators, so. I do want that, so yes, and I trust your opinion. All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate visiting with you. Thank you so much for coming.
Okay, so what I'm going to have right now.
Ron, I apologize for calling you by your first name, but I didn't catch your last name.
All right, brother, take it easy.